Hello and welcome to the Rusted Brush. Today, I'll be reviewing and painting some Renaissance mounted and dismounted foot knights that I'll be using for my Estalian army for the Old World. These models came from Steelfist Miniatures. They make models for later medieval periods, Italian wars or Renaissance, samurai wars, and the English Civil Wars. Go check out their website and see some of their awesome models. So let's begin the review. To start, the models are very well detailed and very accurate to the armor of the Renaissance period. I love the different styles of armor for each knight that you get, like Maximilian or Milanese styles of armor. The assembly was a mixed bag. Some models were one piece and needed no real assembly at all. Some of the others had some dynamic sword poses that made it a bit tricky without the help of pinning or green stuff to put them together. However, their poses are fantastic, and I really love how each model looks very unique from one another. A bit of an inconvenience is that these models have bendy blades since they're metal, so do be careful to not break them, as it will be a painted glue back or make a new blade. The only real issue is that some of the heads have feathers or plumes that you attach to the helmet, and these were a pain to glue on, and on some of them I just gave up and left them off. Now in terms of scale, I took a few photos to show you the comparison to other companies' models. I would say they feel slightly smaller than Games Workshop models, but for the most part, I think they'll blend in better in an army in comparison to the Warlord Games Launch Neck, for example. The Knight on Horse is a bit more apparent that they're smaller than the Games Workshop sculpts, so if you try and mix different models together, it might stand out a bit. Overall, these models are well detailed and have some great poses. They will look fine in most Warhammer armies, but they don't make for an easy kit bash or conversion if you're interested in that kind of thing. Let's move on to painting. I primed all the models with Grey Sears spray to start. Normally, I would use a white primer, but since most of the models are going to be painted with metallics and only some speed paints, I went with something slightly darker. Speaking of metallics, I switched between painting the armor with Leadbelcher, Retributor Gold, and AK 3rd Gen Natural Steel. The gold was given a wash of Sepia Seraphim, and the other metal colors were given a wash of Nuln Oil. Next was to add some colors to the model. For this, I used a variety of different speed paints for the plumes, skirts, and tunics of the model. For blues, I used Royal Blue and Beowulf Blue speed paints. For turquoise, I used Achillean Green contrast paint. For red, I used Blood Red speed paint and Sigvald Burgundy contrast paint. For yellow, I used Zealot Yellow speed paint. For white, I used Holy White speed paint. And for black, I used Grim Black speed paint. I then highlighted all of these different colors. The blues were highlighted with either P3 Signar Blue or Vallejo Light Turquoise. Sigvald Burgundy was highlighted with Screamer Pink. Blood Red was highlighted with Vallejo Dark Vermilion. The yellow was highlighted with Everland Sunset, and sometimes highlighted with Flash Kids Yellow afterwards. Holy White was highlighted with Vallejo Cold White. I also went over one of the knights I painted with white, with Skeleton Horde contrast paint, and then highlighted that with Ushabti Bone. I decided to paint a pattern on this horse's armor. I made a simple check pattern with using Vallejo Light Gray, and then highlighting that with Vallejo Cold White. Next up is to highlight the armor. For this, I use AK 3rd Gen Natural Steel on the models I painted with Leadbelcher or Natural Steel from before the wash. Some of them I left the armor at this stage, and some I decided to highlight afterwards with AK 3rd Gen Dark Aluminum to make them fairly bright. For the gold armor, I highlighted them with Liberator Gold. Then they were highlighted with AK Dark Aluminum just on the edges and trim of the armor. For any hair, beard, or leather, I used Dark Wood and Ruddy Fur speed paints to give them some color. And for skin, I used Crusader Skin speed paint and then highlighted that with Canadian Flesh Tone or Kislev Flesh. Once that was done, I gave them the same basing treatment as the rest of the army. You can see that in some of my other videos. And here's a little showcase of the models. So what do I think of the models? I think they're very well detailed, and in my opinion, they fill a niche of Renaissance armor. Most armor you see in miniatures are rather intricate fantasy or more of a medieval style. And it's nice to have some different period armor in miniatures. I decided to paint them all very colorful. My idea for them is that they're wealthy knights or nobles. I'm going to be using them as Empire swordsmen or greatswords, but they make great commanders in a pinch as well. For the mounted version, I'm using them as Knights of the Empire. As you can see, I changed the mount of one of them to be a boar. The boar is an old metal boar for the Yorks, and I think it makes for a fun mount for an Estalian knight. For some other things I painted up since the last Estalian video, I finished up another group of Demogryph knights with lances. I also finished up painting 5 outriders to add some quick firepower, and best of all, I painted up a Marco Colombo model I had for a while. I picked him up a long time ago, and I thought I lost him, and it was a real nice surprise for me to find him recently. For a little bit of history on this model, it was sculpted by the talented Juan Diaz. The miniature was made for the commemoration of the 10th anniversary in Games Workshop in Spain in 2003. This was also the special figure for the first Golden Demon in Spain, and only 6,200 copies of this model were printed, so makes them fairly rare. And this concludes the video. I hope you enjoyed it. The next video, I'll be opening up some old GW blisters and painting up their contents. Like, comment, and subscribe. Take care, everyone.